Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
And I'm a man with the limp biscuit, Derek Lemaster.
This is Scream.
You can take that
Not a
any way
great,
you want.
not a great name for yourself, but this is Scream Bloody Movies, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and Derek disses himself without even realizing it. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's just one of those days, though, right, Derek? Just one of those days.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about today with tonight's movie. We are doing, in case you haven't read the thumbnail or watched last week or what have you, you're coming in just in the middle right here for some reason. We are doing The Conjuring 3, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Or, sorry, The Devil Made Me Do It. That's what it's called. So we're going to be hitting that up. But first, guys, I have a little tiny bit of horror news. Nothing groundbreaking, but Lydia, you'll like this. They are starting casting for Zach Kreger's Resident Evil movie.
Nice.
So Austin Abrams, who was an actor in Wolves recently, is in talks to join the cast, but we don't really know what it is. You know, we don't know anything about this movie, which is crazy. We just know that it hits theaters September 18th, 2026. And it's said to take the title back to its horror roots and be more faithful to the initial games. Which, let's be honest, wouldn't be hard to be more faithful than the other movies.
Right?
I mean,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You guys excited for this?
I am. I'm curiously excited.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, I am. I'm most familiar with the movies. I never really played the games. So I've watched people play the games, meaning I went and sat next to Joey in his room while he was playing Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So I'm always down for it to go a little more horror.
Yeah, I mean, look, those Resident Evils, we haven't done any of those, have we? Did we do the first one?
Nope.
We haven't done any of them yet. Okay, so I mean, we'll get into those eventually. They're fun movies. At least the first couple are fun. But they have almost nothing to do with Resident Evil at all. I mean, I think actually the script started as something not non-Resident Evil. It was turned into, I watched a thing because you guys know that George Romero was originally hired to write and direct Resident Evil. And
didn't know that.
His script is fucking great. I read the one of the drafts of the script in high school for it, and I really liked it. It was really close to the game. But they wanted something different, and Paul W.S. Anderson had written another film, and it was kind of in the similar thing, so they just rewrote it into a Resident Evil. And that's where we get the great video game character Alice, which we all love from the games, right? So, I'm excited for it. I'm interested to see his new movie, obviously, because we really all enjoyed Barbarian a lot. So, I'm excited. So, guys, this is a little bit of sad news. You guys know Wings Hauser, right? Character actor from tons of movies, Tales from the Hood, Tough Guys Can't Dance, Beastmaster 2, Wings Hauser. He passed away at the age of 77 just recently. He was in a lot of stuff. You guys, I'm going to show you guys who he is. You guys will know exactly.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You guys know Wings Hauser, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So he passed away, this past weekend. Had a ton of, credits, had a long career. So, R.I.P. to him, right? Oh my God. Derek was going nuts over there. That was a wild one.
Though, right?
No, but we saw you go. Looked like you were trying to unlip some biscuits.
Anyhow,
Anywho, so guys, this is really cool. Darren Aronofsky is in talks to direct Stephen King's Cujo for Netflix.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So Netflix is apparently doing a Cujo adaptation. And yeah, Darren Aronofsky of, Black Swan, Mother, The Whale, Requiem for a Dream. He is in talks to direct. What do you guys think of this?
Man, Cujo is such a perfect movie. Maybe not
Pretty good.
perfect, but it's so good.
Pretty good.
Such a classic. That would be a challenging one to try to go up against.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say he's gonna not do very well on this one.
Why would you say that?
Just based on, so I haven't seen all of his movies, but based on the movies that I've seen, I feel like he's more of a cerebral director with like a lot of context and meaning behind what he does, and I don't know how that's going to translate to Cujo. So we'll see. I would love to be wrong.
I can see what you mean. It's not a lack of talent, is what you're saying.
It's not a lack of talent. No, it's a lack of like
sensibility.
The way that the way he creates his art.
I could see what you're saying there. Yeah, I can kind of see that. I think he's going to do great because he's a super talented director, and if he wants to do it, then obviously he's got an angle that he wants to do. So I'm interested to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Cujo's one we got to do. It's a pretty fucking good one.
We haven't done that?
We have not. We have to do it this stinker Kingtober.
Timber.
Hit it up.
Yeah,
Timber, whatever it is. Whatever it is. Guys, this is something that would, like, if I was made of money. Well, if I was made of money, we would have already also, shot our movie. But look, if I was made of money, I would totally be down for this. Tom Sullivan, who is the prop maker for the Evil Dead movie, the original Evil Dead, is auctioning off 1,350 rare screen used props, costumes, and collectibles. But the highlight is that's what everybody's doing. But Tom Sullivan is offering up a handful of things, which, is going to be estimated between $500,000 to $100,000. But he's auctioning off Shelley's burnt facial appliance. What the hell?
Whoa.
God, for God's sakes, man. But he's auctioning off Shelley's burnt facial appliance, the Book of the Dead prototype, Linda's necklace, the Conjuring dagger, his script with illustrations, his poster art concept, Linda's special effects leg when she's stabbed in the Achilles, Deadite Linda's head, Deadite Cheryl, and Ash's special effects arm and hand from Within the Woods. The short film they used to finance Evil Dead.
Yeah.
So,
dang.
Guys.
Can you imagine?
No. I would, if I just had, money laying around, like, especially if I could get my hands on the Conjuring dagger, which looks like it's going to estimate between $10,000 to $20,000, or that prototype Book of the Dead. My gosh.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Or Linda's head.
Linda's head would be cool too. Yeah.
Right?
That would
be so sick, just sitting on your shelf.
Just Linda's head, just floating right here. Yeah, it'd be excellent. So yeah, that is pretty awesome. What do you guys think? You guys want to just go in with me? We'll kind of share custody of the props that we buy.
Hell yeah.
GoFundMe for acquiring the Conjuring dagger.
Yeah, please help us.
Man, I'd
must
be
be
happy
neat.
with the necklace, you know?
Yeah, the necklace would be cool too. Yeah. I mean, it is the most hideous necklace that's ever fucking existed, which is what's so great about it. Just looks like a magnifying glass. It's so funny.
I love it.
All right, and then this is the last bit of horror news, guys. This is pretty important. John Carpenter is going to receive his Hollywood Walk of Fame star in April 3rd.
About freaking time.
A travesty that it hasn't happened already.
Agreed. But there's nobody more fitting to have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame than the horror master himself, obviously. So we are obviously super advocates for that, and I'm super excited. It's going to be great, and I'll go visit it once it's up there, you know?
Heck yeah. That would be so cool. I don't really
Also-
think about the Hollywood Walk of Fame very often, so I don't really know who's on there.
Yeah,
You know?
Robert Englund's getting his on there this year as well.
Yeah, we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Mhm.
And so now John
That's awesome.
and, Robert Englund. Yes. It's cool. You go by there and you see like Bela Lugosi,
Yeah, that would be insane.
stuff like that. Yeah, just like, So yeah, that's amazing. And that wraps up the horror news. All right, guys. Let's get into it. The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. None of us saw this in theaters because it released during the pandemic or at the tail end of the pandemic, right? We weren't quite in lockdown, but theaters were coming back, and this was like an HBO Max release, I think, right? When it came out. I think it played theaters as well, but I think it was day and date, right? Like, it was day and date. So it was released on Max and because it was released on June 4th, 2021. And this is crazy. Even with the pandemic, it still brought in $206 million at
What
the
was
box
the budget?
office. The budget was $39 million. So,
Pretty good.
yeah, almost a two point multiplier. And especially when you consider the people that had Max and just watched it there like we did.
Yeah.
Because I think the first movie we all ventured out to see was Halloween Kills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Because we were like, because we were super pumped. And then we were devastated a couple years later. But that's a story for a different time. So when did you guys first watch this? Was it around that time?
Yep. Like as soon as it was available, me and Jake
Yeah.
were like, all right, get the popcorn, dim the lights, let's go.
Yeah, I think we watched it the same weekend, Lydia, because I think we talked about it the next weekend. We went up to the lake or something, and we were like, "Hey, did you watch it?" Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. Derek, and you just watched it around that same time too?
Yeah, I don't think it was that weekend, but I did watch. This is my second watch.
Yeah, this is my second watch too. I've only seen it twice. I watched it that first time and then today. So, let's kind of get into it. Where do you guys want to start? So here's what's interesting about this one is, so all of these, are based off true stories. That's kind of the Conjuring way.
The
so with
loosest way possible.
Yeah, well, with the Perrin house, the Perrin haunting, that was very contained story that we only had a handful of people to corroborate. And then the Enfield haunting, it was slightly bigger. And we know there's plenty of liberties taken with that, but the movie is just so good. So it doesn't matter. It tells just a fucking amazing story. This one is a little different because in those other movies, nobody was actually hurt or killed in real life, But this movie is about somebody actually being murdered. And, it's kind of interesting because they're positing that, he was possessed by the devil because that's the defense they went with initially. Obviously, it wasn't for the trial. I'll get into that too. But how do you guys feel about them basing the movie off of this incident?
Personally, I didn't really like it. And I remember being really conflicted when it came out and I was really curious and excited to see like how they were going to handle it, because this is like a real true crime case that I had heard the story of, and then realized that they were kind of like really leaning into the fact that he was possessed, which just sounds pretty wild, you know. And so I was curious to how they were going to take it, but I still don't really know how I feel about it.
Yeah, and we'll dig into that more when we go. What do you think, Derek?
I'll be honest with you. I was looking up our ratings. What was the question? I'm so sorry.
It was them basing this off of like an actual murder that occurred.
Oh, I thought that was the question. I mean, I don't know much about the actual case. So, I mean, just thinking at it from like a logical perspective, there's probably a lot more coverage. So it would be easier to like separate fact from fiction. I feel like you could find a lot more details. I don't know if that's the actual case or not, because like I said, I don't know anything about the case it's based off of, but it's a riskier proposition than I think the other two, if you're trying to keep that mystique of it being based on a true story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jamie's over there going.
This is really
crazy.
annoying. So yeah, I agree. I'm kind of like I was kind of torn like Lydia was, right? Like, so like it's not as grody, for instance, as the Amityville 2 Amityville sequel, where we know like an entire family was brutally murdered and what have you. But a man did lose his life, and a guy was murdered. And they posit in the movie that, oh yeah, he was murdered because he was possessed. You see, was cursed and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of maybe a little sketchy, right?
Yeah.
As far as morally, is it? I mean, if they tell a good story, it kind of would go a long way. You know what I mean? If the story was super solid, it'd go a long way to kind of easing some of that stuff. And we'll talk about how successful the story itself is. But we start off with, this opening. What do you guys think of this opening bit? How do you feel about it? This opening possession.
I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a pretty strong opening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
it's shot well.
I think it's shot well. I think it's pretty good. I think they rely too much on some CGI, like when he twists himself and stuff. I'm like, I don't really care about that part as much. But I think it's really cool when he's coming down the stairs and we see the marks on the wall and stuff as he's trying to like claw. I think all that's interesting. I do think it's maybe a little hammy when he's like, come into me and that sort of stuff. It's fine. Mm-hmm. But as an opening, it's pretty strong because it puts our characters in peril, and it puts them into like a crazy position too, right? Like, I mean, we see that Ed has a heart attack, so it's like he's vulnerable at this point, and all this stuff. So I think it's a pretty solid opening. Is it
I like
real? No, of course, but
right, yeah. I think like I'll say that the first time I watched it, I was like very heavily thinking about like how unreal this true story is, Mm-hmm. And this time I kind of wanted to just judge it based on the movie itself because that's what we do here. But I'll also add that I binge watched all 3 of the movies, Conjuring 1, 2, and 3 today. So it kind of flowed pretty nicely for me. That intro being so intense, I was like, yep, I was ready for it. Like I was really prepared.
Yeah, I think the intro is really solid, really good. Like it kind of tells, sets up the stakes, sets up stuff. We get like little flashes of like what's to come with like the curse shit and everything. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really solid. I think it's a really solid opening. Then we jump
Wait,
ahead
before
to
we
like. Okay, go ahead.
move off this, like one scene that I really liked. Now, later in the movie they tried like they kind of did this a similar thing. I was like, oh, you're reusing it too much, but the bathtub scene was actually really good.
Mhm.
Where he's hiding in the bathtub, and especially like when you look up and like the knobs for the like curtain are black, and then you realize that one of them's a hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
cool. It's really
And
cool.
the
Then the
shower
blood.
turns on and it's blood.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah, the blood thing. I was like, maybe that's a little too much, but it's cool. I liked it.
Yeah.
But the hand was
Very
really
Evil
good.
Dead.
Yeah, the hand was really cool. I was like, oh yeah, that's some Conjuring shit right there. That's like
Yeah.
that's some like James Wan stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We need to talk about James Wan did not direct this movie. This is the first Conjuring movie that he didn't direct. He wrote the story and executive produced it, but he wasn't the on-set director. And you could kind of tell it's definitely weaker than the other two as far as the direction is concerned, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the visuals and some of the like the transitions and stuff. You know how James Wan is like a master of that fucking shit.
Yeah.
But so what do you guys? So basically, the demon leaves the kid, and we're kind of in the, he's like staying at this. Basically, she's working at like a kennel kind of place, which is real. This is what really happened. They like worked at like this dog kennel, and then there's the landlord of the kennel lived there, and so and that sort of thing. So we see like flashes of him, like things happening, like he's starting to see things. He hears like he sees something, chases it down into like the ground because he knocks over some cereal and stuff, and it's that sort of stuff. He sees like the woman, the witch woman. He sees her at one point, and then he starts to break, and we get like the murder scene, which thankfully they didn't show it because it would have been just in too bad taste, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they do it in this movie is so like I think in real life they were drinking all day in real life.
I didn't have time to like research the actual case or anything because I was busy watching all the movies, but
we're gonna touch on it briefly. We're not gonna like deep dive into all of it, but I know about it because I watched a documentary on it, The Real Conjuring or whatever it was called. I watched a thing on it, this whole documentary, and it's pretty good. But yeah, so there's a really cool shot where after he sees her, he thinks that like she's like the landlord's attacking his girlfriend, and he goes to save her, and he like turns into like a demon, and then he falls down, and he's like there's that window that turns red, or like the doorway that turns red.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sees like, and then it dims black, and then like the demon starts like crawling after him, so he stabs it. And then it's pretty effective because the next scene we see is him walking, which is how really they found him. He was just walking down the road covered in blood, and had no idea where he was and everything and what happened. What do you guys think of this whole setup and this whole scene in general?
I liked it. I thought it was like really stressful, like when you have like the loud music playing and all the dogs are barking, and it really like kind of sets up like you see him like not feeling good, and you're like, oh no, like something's gonna go down.
Yeah, and the landlord is like sweating so bad.
Yeah,
it like
so
just
sweaty.
adds, and he's like super smashed, so it like just feels, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Like you can smell it almost.
Yeah. What do you think?
Stale
Eric?
beer and the sweat and the dogs.
And the must, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it played really well, like in a discombobulated, like confusing, because he's seeing things like that window scene where he's in the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really effective. And then just like his complete and utter confusion walking down the road covered in blood. Just like, man, that poor bastard.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's going through
Except,
some shit.
Yeah. So
I'm sure in real life it was some thing that we obviously don't know, and he killed somebody. But you know,
yeah. I mean, and basically, I mean, his story is still that he was, possessed. But yeah, so that kind of kicks off our story, which is,
rage,
yeah,
yeah.
So it's interesting because so that sets off our plot essentially. That's an inciting incident. Because once he gets arrested, they go and visit him, and they're like, "Well, he's not possessed because he's reading from the Bible. He's looking at all these, religious artifacts and this sort of stuff. So it's stuff that he couldn't do if he was actually possessed." So they're like, well, that doesn't mean he wasn't possessed when it happened. And now their goal is to prove that that's the case. And, they go to the lawyer. It's actually a pretty funny scene. They go to the lawyer and talk to her, and she's like, I can't. That's not, so it had been tried twice and failed in England. And she's like, well, it's never been successfully done. And she's like, I'm not going to do it. He goes, well, how about you come spend the afternoon with us? We'll show you some of our stuff. And, because she goes, how can you, if you have to convince the whole jury. How can you do that if you can't convince me? Well, come on to the house. We'll introduce you to Annabelle. And then it cuts, and she's just in the courtroom, like shaken to her core.
Does he say Annabelle, or he says, hey,
yeah,
come over to
he
the
says
house?
Annabelle.
Yeah, he says Annabelle. I was like, I'll introduce you to Annabelle. And then it's like, yeah, it just cuts to her, like, devastated, shaken to her core. She's seen it now, and she, of course, does the, that's what tries it for that. So here's the thing: she did in real life. They did use that. That's why it's called the "Devil Made Me Do It" case. It's because he entered the plea of not guilty by reason of demonic possession, and the judge basically threw it out. So basically, they had to try. I think the trial was tried on the merits of the manslaughter, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to remember it completely, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Is like the trial took place. Let me see real fast. Yeah, so basically argue that no such defense could ever exist in a court due to lack of evidence, and that it could be irrelative and unscientific to allow such testimony. So they instead implied that he acted in self-defense. Because of this, the jury was not legally allowed to consider demonic possession as a viable explanation for the killing.
Interesting.
Yeah,
there was one thing that I really liked that Ed mentions, was that everyone has to accept God at every single court hearing. Like they're like, you're going in front of God when you're on a trial like this. Like,
yeah, he says, I think his exact words are, we acknowledge the existence of God every time that somebody has to put their hand on a Bible. Every time somebody goes on the road. I think it's about time that we, acknowledge the existence of the devil.
That's such a good argument. I love that argument.
It is. It's a cool line too. Yeah, it's a cool line.
Because it's true.
This sets our story in motion, and here's like where I think the movie starts to get a little weak is the introduction of like, so basically they start investigating, and we get this really cool scene with the waterbed, where he talks about the flashback.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think of this waterbed scene?
It's so creepy. I remember at my cousin's house, they had waterbeds, and I totally could just feel that kid's excitement of like seeing a waterbed in the room and be like, oh, I'm going to go walk all over it and lay on it for a little bit and just let the waves do their thing.
You ever slept on a waterbed?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're hot. The one I slept on was always like heated, and it was just so hot. I was miserable.
Yeah, I never slept on one that was heated. I always rolled off to the side, man, and got like.
Oh yeah, you'd get stuck in the crevice of the box.
Yeah.
my parents used to have a waterbed back when we were kids, and I remember going in there and sitting with mom and dad and stuff, and then like I'd be in there watching TV or something, and I could just, and then I remember laying on it, and I'm like, man, I would not like this as like my real bed. Like I just too much. And then I think it got a hole in it and they got rid of it. But I remember them having a waterbed back in the day because I remember crawling on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember taking like my aunt like would put me and my cousin down to like take a nap on the waterbed, and she would be like fidgeting or like her feet or something, and I would just be like, "Would you stop?"
Yeah,
You
like
can't
just
sleep.
it's just like any motion. Just
Yeah.
yeah, waterbeds. What a weird fad. But anyway, the scene is
Yeah.
really cool.
It's very effective, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, and the way it explodes and stuff, and they're like, well, let's go under here and check out, see what's going on here, because that's not water damage. This is some kind of evil rust, evilness. This is evil goo. And they find she goes under, and she Lorraine crawls underneath the crawl space and finds this totem.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about these totems and this like being a driving plot point? It's like a MacGuffin. What do you guys think of this?
I don't love it. After the first two movies, like never really mentioned anything similar to that or anything, so it was kind of felt a little bit off course for this movie. I don't hate it though. I think it's kind of spooky. I just feel like it's probably the most like unbelievable, unrealistic part. Although I have to say, like I am kind of paranoid of curses sometimes. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel.
What do you think,
always felt
Derek?
I'm cursed. So I'm going to give you two impressions. The first impression was the first time I saw this movie.
Mhm.
And I really had super mixed feelings about it because to that point, it really felt like off script per se to what the core of the movies were. In the second watch, I kind of warmed up to it a little bit more. I'm not saying it's definitely obviously not my favorite one because the ratings we've given the other two are like off the charts.
Yeah.
But I did warm up to the concept on the second watch. So
See,
it's different.
I'm kind of in the same camp you guys are. When I first watched it, I did not like it at all. This time I still don't love it. I don't hate it though. I mean, I think it's okay. But to me, it feels the most movie.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like with the rest of them, I mean, of course they're movies, but they kind of flow naturally, and you're kind of in this world of demonology and stuff. This felt like a horror movie MacGuffin, and I'm like, kind of takes me out of it a little bit. You know what I mean? And it's kind of hokey. It's a little hokey. I mean, we do get that really, after they find it, they go and visit the priest, the ex-priest. And guys, come on, as soon as you see this guy, he's like bad news, right? I mean, you're like,
he's like always a bad guy.
Man.
yeah.
Love that actor.
But as soon as you see him, you're up to no, he's up to no good. There's some bad vibes here. There's some bad vibes.
He's not bad. I mean, he raised a shitty daughter, but he's not bad.
Yeah, but I mean, he also doesn't stop her at all.
That's true.
I mean,
they live in his like fucking crawl spaces and shit, and
well, it's a tricky subject, man.
Yeah, I remember
let your kids get away with.
I remembered him
him
being worse than what he actually seems to be on this watch.
Yeah.
Like you thought he was part of the. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was much more part of it.
Yeah, he's not really a part of it, which we'll find out. But he's definitely, I mean, he knows about it and he doesn't say anything and try to stop it. Which you could argue is just the same as helping.
Pretty bad.
Accomplice.
Bad.
Yeah, but like he wants to take him downstairs, and Lorraine immediately is like, I don't want to go down there.
She can sense the evil.
Yeah, she senses the evil, and probably she'd watch Zodiac. It was like, I don't
Yeah.
go down the basements. But yeah, so I mean that's interesting. That's where we get a little bit of like the Ram cult. We find out some stuff about that, and we get kind of a backstory that this is like a totem, that's a curse. And then they go on this adventure where they go with the police detective and had found another one. And so they go and like find the missing girl's body and all that stuff. What do you guys think of this whole side tangent with Lorraine doing this like ghost whisperer shit?
I kind of like that. I like that kind of stuff. I think it's cool. I like seeing their characters. Like I'm sure we've talked about this in the other episodes,
the best parts.
Their character, like Ed and Lorraine's characters, they're just like so wholesome and sweet, and you just love them. You can't even help but love them. And when she's talking about like she met Elvis when he was alive and when he was dead,
Yeah.
And she's like, and then she's just like, "Oh, you missed your turn," and he's just like, "Oh, okay," he's like,
now she does.
believe her.
Yeah, she does know. Yeah,
yeah. I think that's really fun.
Yeah,
I don't know about the whole stabbing part, but
yeah,
her like reenacting everything.
Yeah, it's fine.
And I also just feel really bad that Ed is like not doing so well because he had to have like heart surgery from that heart attack.
So he's all like, little worse for the wear than usual.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's Limp Bizkit, Ed.
Jesus Christ. You and Limp Bizkit, I swear to God.
It's your guys' fault. I had not even a thought in the world about that band until our pre-conversation to this.
Well, I
bet
will
he
say
did it all for the nookie.
I bet he did. Derek, you better stop it. Listen, it's my way or the highway, okay? Like a chump, eh? Like a chump. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. This scene where she, so she's starting to kind of see the woman. She can't quite see anything yet. She's like, oh, I can see. I'm sensing this, whatever. And then, she, the police are like, hey, here we go. I'm going to send those case files over to you after they find it, and they get out and everything's fine. Then we go back to Arnie, and he's just like experiencing some shit. What do you think about all of Arnie's stuff?
Like in the prison?
In the prison, yeah. All the prison stuff he's going through.
Pretty whack.
Pretty whack. Because he's like trying to kill her, or like, I mean, she's trying to make him off himself.
Yeah.
So we find out that the curse has a couple of like components to it, right? So first, it has to be a murder suicide. You have to kill somebody, and then you have to kill yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And this has to happen 3 times.
3 times.
Yep. Did we ever get like a resolution as to like what you get?
No.
If you fulfill this curse? Okay.
Just evil.
And attaboy from Satan.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, yeah.
Get $1 million.
$1 million. So he's doing like his he's being, different things. Like the holy water was snuck in and he crushes it, when he gets possessed, and he's almost cuts his wrist. But then this is intercut with the morgue scene where Lorraine is holding the thing. What do you guys think of the morgue scene?
That's pretty good.
Pretty well done. Yeah.
I think it's pretty decent. There's some stuff in there that I think is pretty cool. Like when we first see that dead body, that's pretty good. And I do like that. I do like that Lorraine basically, shuts down the blasphemer and ruins her curse. And then she looks at her and sees her, and she's like, "How are you doing this?" And she realizes that it's a two-way connection that she can see her and she can see him, or they both can see each other, and she's controlling that dead body. And then how it, when she grabs it and breaks the connection and it just falls over is pretty fucking cool, right?
Yeah.
Pretty creepy. And then Arnie, of course, stops trying to cut his wrist because he wakes up. He's not possessed anymore. Which basically leads us to the next big set piece, which is at Ed and Lorraine's house. What do you guys think of this set piece?
I'm trying to think what happens at Ed and Lorraine's house.
So at Ed and
This is
Lorraine's
where,
house.
yeah, so like,
because
so-
she knows about them, so she's like found
Yeah.
them somehow, and like
so we we find the flowers, but that's not that's after like Ed gets sucked into a I don't know, I wouldn't call it a vision, but like a altered
Hallucination.
state where
Yeah.
Yeah.
hallucination. There you go. See, I was on the right path. Altered state, hallucination. I was there.
Yeah.
And thinks that he is trying to take out the blubber dude, and instead tries to take out his lover dude. Yeah.
The blubber dude. Fucking God. I think that was a bloated woman, first of all, right? Wasn't that what it's supposed to
Was
be?
I think it was a man. I think it was,
Was
a
it?
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just like a heavy set man.
Yeah.
Bloated
Should have been packing a chainsaw.
But man, when that to skin your ass
Yeah,
raw.
that's wrong, get it?
So the second time the blubber dude comes back, I don't think it's as effective.
Yeah. Well, it's because he's not even really there,
Right. But even so, I'm just like, it's
I
not
think
as
it was-
effective.
Kind of shocking because you're like, oh, how did he get here?
Yeah,
He's
I
supposed to
do
be at the
like-
morgue.
I do like all the other stuff within this scene. Like I do like that he's, comes down because he like falls over from like his heart, wakes up in his bed, and then goes down and sees like the doors kicked open and everybody's missing, and he's freaking out, and he sees the witch woman. Which, what the fuck is her name even? Do we know what it is?
Well, I
he
feel like
sees-
it was. I feel like it showed it in like the baby picture.
Oh, just
But
the occultist.
I couldn't
Is-
read it.
yeah.
It looked like it said like Isla or something.
Yeah, I
I'm not
think you're
sure.
right. Yeah. I think you're right.
It was like very small cursive, so I couldn't really tell what it said.
Yeah, so it's just called the occultist is her name in the movie.
Okay, that makes
Uh,
sense. I think she's a
but-
spooky character.
Yeah, but it's
Mhm.
interesting because like she sees, he sees her and he yells at her, and she's like kind of like, "Oh, you're too late" or whatever.
Hmm.
And then that's when he starts getting attacked, and he doesn't even think he has a knife. He's like thinks he's blessing this thing, and when he wakes up, he what's his name stops the knife from, and Lorraine's up in a corner. Drew's the kid. Drew grabs his arm and stuff. And so that's pretty good because she's not like, Ed, you're trying to kill me. She's like, it's her. She already knows. It's not like we have to play this game. It's like, I know who it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is good. So yeah, then we move from there to like they basically find out how to stop the demon, which is the only way to break the curse is to destroy the altar, which is like a super movie thing. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
To break the
Does that
curse-
actually make sense? No.
It's fine. So you have to break the altar. So Lorraine goes to the ex-priest to get some stuff translated. She needs some of the stuff translated. And then meanwhile, Ed and Drew stay to try to figure this stuff out. And the girl is with Arnie, which, by the way, how is she just able to chill out with fucking Arnie? That doesn't make sense to me.
Jake said the same
with the
thing.
priest?
He was like, why is she in there?
No, the girl. How is she just chilling in prison with him?
Well, he's on he's unconscious at this point, right? Or he's on suicide watch. He's
He's on
locked down
suicide watch. He's
in the
like,
infirmary, I think.
He was
No,
sedated.
in the
you're right. It's
infirmary.
a good.
But still, I don't think she would
you
probably
don't
be allowed in there.
No, especially overnight. That's not a thing.
Man, this was back in the 50s. They did crazy shit.
In the 50s, it's 1981.
That was pretty close, man. In the 80s, they
God.
were doing all kinds of stupid shit.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That kind of threw me out a little bit too, because I was like, I don't know about that. Because every time I saw her there, I was like, it just kind of takes me out. Because I'm like, what the fuck are you doing there? But anyway,
Wait, Derek, what color was this movie? You think it's in the 50s? How would you think it was in the 50s?
The flashbacks got me, okay?
the
The first one
flashback.
started in the 70s.
No, because I think she says at one point it was like 30 years ago.
When they met.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did
But the
flashbacks.
first-
That would have been the 50s.
yeah, but the first movie
Flashback.
was in the
They
70s.
were kids in high school.
Mathematician Derek over here.
Yeah, your math ain't mathin', man.
My math is mathin'.
Now it
It's
is.
1981, and they flashed back, and it was 30 years ago when they met at the altar. That's the 50s.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the movie was in the 50s.
Part of it was.
One scene.
Got you there. Got you there.
One scene.
They have a
Enough for
goddamn
me.
camcorder in scenes in this movie. Derek's like, yep, definitely a 50s invention.
Whatever. That takes me back to that one scene whenever they're like in the second one. He was like, "Oh man, this is so light." And it's like this giant.
giant thing, yeah.
Yep.
But so this whole third act is kind of what do you guys feel about it? Because basically Ed figures out, how does he figure out that it's there again? I forget.
because
he
of the
figures-
train and the water.
Yeah.
Okay, so both of those is what leads him there, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because they're looking at the map and they're like, the guy's
Like,
like, well,
only-
it can't be these two. It's got to
Yeah.
be this. And this one oversex. And it crosses a body of water, and that he remembers back to them visiting the priest.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And he's like,
And-
oh no.
Oh
She's
no, that's
going
where
there.
she. Yeah, so
My water's
I
going
think it-
there.
I think it's pretty spooky when she arrives there after we know that. And, so that's when we think that this priest is going to be like super nefarious as opposed to just slightly nefarious.
Mhm.
Dude, who the fuck walks down and sits in the dark and waits for you to like get somewhere and then turns the light on? Hi.
Only
Yeah.
a supervillain.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, I'm out.
I know you're super suspicious at that point.
And so when
Honestly,
he
yeah.
starts,
Kind of a good
telling,
misdirect. 'Cause
when he starts telling her about it and everything, and it's like, this is the, she did this and everything. I think that's pretty good. And when she, he sends her down through the tunnels and stuff, his death scene's pretty good. I think it's pretty cool that he she closes the door and she's right there. And then he basically watches her throughout the whole time. He's kind of talking to her, pulls out the gun, and then she just appears behind him.
Yeah.
Slits his throat. Pretty good.
Super fast.
Yeah, pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty scary.
What do you think about the whole third act in the tunnel, though? You think it's scary? I don't think it's very scary.
I mean, it's more suspenseful than anything.
It is suspenseful. It has some suspense. Yeah.
And then, when Ed gets introduced and he's like kind of chasing her and,
Yeah.
she's trying to convey to him like, hey, break this. She thinks our love is weakness and it's not. And you're just like,
I
"Oh,
like that
happy
stuff. I
shit."
think
No.
that's good stuff because that's ultimately what these movies are. According
Mhm.
to James Wan, these are love stories, the Warrens' love story. So I like that aspect of it. I like the whole, hey, like she thinks our, love is our weakness, but it's really our strength kind of stuff. And I just feel very Insidious Wells watch, especially since it's Patrick Wilson, like chasing his family around with like in this case, a hammer as opposed to a baseball bat. But it's kind of, I'm like, it feels like it's from a different movie.
Mhm.
See what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
do
Does
gotta
it feel
say,
like
yeah.
it fits in the Conjuring universe?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just really goes back to you just can't help but think of the like based on a true story. And you're just like, this
Yeah.
part, this ending is the least believable. There's like no way
Yeah.
any of this happened in reality.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That moment where Ed like breaks through and then he looks at that lady and he's like, "You better watch your back because I'm fucking up your program." And then he breaks her altar.
Jesus Christ.
Loved it.
No, you gotta stop. You gotta stop, Durst.
I liked when he did swing that thing, smash that table in
Yeah,
half, though.
it's really good. It's really good because at the same time, Arnie is literally floating in the prison, which, by the way, if that shit was happening, I think they could probably fucking acquit him.
Yeah. There were
Because
witnesses
there's tons of people that saw
there.
it. Yeah, tons of people saw it. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that they could have got him off in real life. But yeah, so he's floating and she's trying to stop him from stabbing himself, and the priest is like shouting the Lord's Prayer over and over for some reason. That's like the only prayer I guess he knows. But he just keeps shouting it over and over. And then they smash that altar and it breaks him free of his curse. I do like the way that Ed does it, like he's like he sees her and then he just swings away and smashes it. And then she immediately, it's like comes out and has like a knife or whatever. And she's like, and Ed says, hey, you promised them souls and you didn't deliver. And then she gets like contorted into
Little pretzel.
craziness, little pretzel, and
little
see,
skinny pretzel lady.
Yeah, so that's kind of the stuff I'm talking about. That's like, like you were talking about that feels very movie-ish, more movie-ish than the other movies.
Yeah.
Like, blah, blah, blah.
Just one of those days, man.
Oh my God, Derek, you got to stop. But, what do you guys think of this third act?
I think there are parts of it that are kind of slow. Specifically compared to the first two films that were, not slow. So
it's also more self-contained, like on the other two movies, the third act is where everything boom explodes, but Bathsheba's running through everything. They do the whole exorcism. She's floating, all that crazy stuff. And then in The Conjuring 2, the whole house is going fucking mad while Valak is wreaking havoc.
Yeah.
In this one, they're in a tunnel.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're going back and forth from like the prison, and
the prison has all the spectacle.
The
prison does have all the spectacle with the exploding glass and all that stuff.
Yeah, but
so
I think they're like spectacle. They're looking at like Lorraine, and she's like trying to like push that giant altar table over, and she's just not getting anywhere. And then we just keep, there's scenes like that just kind of linger a little too long on the nothing happening portion.
Yeah,
but and then you just have him like swinging that hammer at her, and it's just like, well, we know he's not gonna hurt her, obviously.
Yeah.
But other than that, I thought it was entertaining.
It's solid, right? It's a solid third act. I do really like that when when they crawl up and he's like, he's starting to feel like he's gonna have a heart attack. He's like, I forgot my medicine.
Yeah.
And then she opens up her locket and she has it. It's really sweet.
Yep. Almost teared up a little bit.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's good.
That is touching.
And the theme song kicks in right there, like the Lorraine and Ed's theme song, and I'm like, oh, that's good stuff. And then the actual ending of this movie is pretty cool too. Like we get, that's nice. He rebuilds the gazebo in the yard for her, and
that's
then
sweet.
We find out that Arnie, served 5 years in prison, which is true. He was found guilty of manslaughter, sentenced between 10 and 20 years. I think he served 5 to 6. And then he and Sarah, I think is her name, right? They did get married, and they're still married today. Debbie. They did get married and stay married.
You were just thinking about your marriage.
Yeah, I was, about how it was under extreme circumstances. But yeah, that's what do you guys think of this whole ending? The wrap up and everything.
It's definitely interesting. I love the sweetness and just you know, how these movies always end with the facts, you know, and it just kind of brings you back into it. And you're like,
well,
man,
they
that's
always
insane.
end. Yeah, they always end on a sweet note because that's what these movies are, you know,
Mhm.
and I like that. But but then we get the credits and we get like the tape of the possession and stuff like we do with the other movies.
Mhm.
Which Sarah hates. It always terrifies her whenever that stuff kicks on.
I know. I was thinking of Sarah when that pops up.
She hates that shit. It scares her so much. And I'm just kind of like, I mean, the first time when I watched the first one and that happens, I was like, ooh, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And then also when we hear Bill's voice in the second one's pretty good too. Like
I was doing that all day.
My name's Bill Wilkerson and I'm 78 years old. Yes.
I came into the room where Jake was gaming and started doing that, and all of his friends could just hear me like on the mic. So I'm a creep. I don't know.
So that is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. What do you guys think? How are we feeling about this? Where are we sitting with it?
So
what were our ratings?
I was about to say.
Yes.
So the first Conjuring, we all, like, Jamie gave it a 9.5, Lydia, you and I gave it 10s. The second Conjuring, 10s across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So this one was definitely a step down. I still think it was a pretty good and effective movie. Like I said, the second time I watched it, I had a better experience, and maybe it's because going into it the first time,
our expectations were too high. Yeah.
Well, it's not even. They were really high, but also like the way that you felt like the movie should play out, and then this new element is introduced, and I mean, there's obviously a whole like thing related to witchcraft and stuff like that, and how you feel about that. But anyway, still, it's a solid movie. Love to see those characters. I hope they continue doing these movies. I don't know if they have any plans to.
We have one more that's in the pipeline, the last one, called The Last Rites. We've talked about it several times on this podcast that we host.
Well, I've slept since then. I really think that this would have been a spectacular like mini series, like on Max. Do seasons that are 6 episodes long, because I mean, you've got so much material. Anyway, I'm just dreaming here. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna give this movie a 7.5. It is a step down, but still solid showing. Still good showing.
What do you think, Lydia?
That was lower than I expected, Derek. Now I don't know what to do. I will say that you touched on like people's views on witchcraft. And I was talking to Jamie about this last week when we talked about this movie, but I feel like it's kind of a shame that these movies always portray witches as like the most evil when there are a lot of people who just are like everyday witches that are not evil. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Oh,
I it's kind of the same with obviously with these movies that are just very much like you need to believe in the church in order to believe the rules of this movie. And as someone who does not believe in that religion, it's kind of a bittersweet relationship because they're so fun and they're such good movies. But the morals like might not be the same as everyone else's, especially if you're not a Christian and you consider yourself a witch and you're watching this and you're like, Christians really hate witches.
Always have.
Misunderstood.
Yeah.
Always have.
And,
you always fear what you don't understand.
Yeah. And at one point they pull out this book that was like, he was like, oh, the church used to use this book to find the witches. And I was like, no.
They just used to make shit up to find the witches, my guy.
Yes. I was like, this is based on a true story. Like I said that out loud.
Oh, you are not sick. You must be a witch.
Yeah. Just any woman who didn't comply, basically. But anyways, I think this movie is more entertaining than I remembered it. If you can suspend your belief in any of this, I don't think like, I don't think 90% of this, these scenarios actually happen in real
Well,
life.
of course.
But I would love to know. I really would. I want to know. Did they find a totem anywhere? Was there any hint of witchcraft in this case?
No.
No. Like, so it's just all it's just all a story. And
Yeah.
I don't think it was a bad one. I just don't know how I feel about it changing people's opinions of the person who murdered someone.
What are you giving it?
I think I'm gonna give it a 8.5.
Okay. I'm kind of where Derek is. I'm gonna give it like a 7.5, probably. I think it's solid. I don't think it's bad by any stretch. I think it's a pretty good horror movie. I think it's definitely a step down from the other two Conjuring movies, which I think are like modern masterpieces. And like I said, it feels the most movie-ish, like the whole introduction of that, of like the totems and the witchcraft stuff is kind of like a weird thing to. I guess they needed a villain. They needed something to fight, because they can't, say that Arnie's possessed the entire time, because we know that that's not the case. But the cult that they talk about, that the cult of Ram, that they talk about in the movie, is the Disciples of the Ram. That's the cult that's in the Annabelle movies. So that's where they tie it back into this movie. So it's a fictional cult, but yeah. And it has, absolutely nothing to do with Arnie Johnson's case, like whatsoever. But yeah, so I think it's good. I think it's solid. I think it is the weakest of the three Conjurings. I don't think it's the worst in the Conjuring universe. Obviously, we've done the first Annabelle, but we haven't done Annabelle 2, which I think is really solid. We'll get into. And then we haven't done any of the nuns. And we haven't done Annabelle Comes Home yet either. So we have quite a few to knock down still. All right, guys. It's time to Atkinize this movie. Who would Tom Atkins play? Not a lot of characters. He could play either the priest.
He would play a good priest, man.
Yep, the dad of the occultist. Or he could play the cop, which is the only black guy in the movie, so I'd probably keep him there.
The only black guy in all of these movies, I think.
I think you might be right. You watched them, so you know.
I could be wrong. There could have been other black cops that appeared at some point.
Show up. Yeah, show up. Who would Tom Atkins play, guys?
I think the dad of the occultist or whatever.
Yeah,
I think I would like to see him in that role, like especially because he's an older man, and we always cast him as his young self.
Yeah,
and I think it would be cool to cast him as his old self, like now.
I think that'd be good. Yeah, I agree with that.
I could see him sitting in the dark, just like waiting to turn on a lamp.
Well, it'd be cool if it was Tom Atkins. He'd be sitting in the dark, then we'd just see a cherry come up from the cigarette that he just lit.
Yeah. And you'd hear the beer.
Grill me.
Yeah. Then he would, turn on the light and be like,
yeah.
That
would have been the way to do it.
That's how you have to do it. So it's my turn to pick.
Yes.
We are going to go back to basics today. And we are going to hit up a movie that we haven't done yet.
Okay. I think we've
in
done
the
them all.
business of doing repeats.
Well, that's only
Except
if
for
we
that
do
one time, but that was an accident.
Well, if we do, Evil Dead 2. All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. You ready?
Yep.
So we're going to hit up on a slashic that we've not done yet. So we're going to go back to 1981, and we are going to do The Burning.
The Burning.
Yes, it is streaming on Tubi. So The Burning is a movie that with makeup effects by Tom Savini. It's actually unfortunately one of the Weinstein's first movies.
Mm.
But it is a pretty solid slasher movie from 1981. The Burning. It is streaming on Tubi. So
Cool.
that's what we're doing next week.
Sounds like a
Burning.
good one.
We haven't done that yet, right? We haven't.
No.
It's the tale of old Cropsey. So check it out. Oh, it's a Cropsey tale. Pretty good stuff. Has a pretty memorable scene that I can't wait for you guys to see.
Great.
So that is what we're doing next week. So guys, next week, The Burning, and tell us what you guys think out there. Comment down below on your thoughts on this movie. How do you feel about the way they treat the true story? How do you think of it as just a film itself? Is it as solid as the other two Conjuring movies? Are we off base on this? I don't think we are. I think we're pretty good consensus. But let us know. Also, pick out any movie that you want us to do. Drop it in there. Give us some more ideas so that way we don't have to think about it. And, join us next week for The Burning on Tubi. So, as you can see, go down below. You can check out the opening scene for the movie that we are shooting this July. So, guys, that's our show for tonight. So join us next week when we check out The Burning. Till then, for Derek Lemaster and Lydia Judy, I'm Jamie Hiles. Remember, if you're going to scream bloody movies.